World leaders need to take the threat of killer robots seriously. That was the warning delivered by a group of experts to the World Economic Forum in Davos, Switzerland last week. The military could use killer robots to track down and kill people without being guided by human beings. Those robots don't exist yet, but the technology to build them is being developed in countries around the world. Some could be human or animal-sized or extremely tiny, the size of an insect capable of moving exceedingly fast. The experts warn they could be as deadly as nuclear weapons and need to be regulated now before an arms race begins, and Gordon, of course, to keep them out of the hands of terrorists.
For city councilors, these chambers are hallowed ground where city laws are made. So at every meeting, they take a moment to say a prayer.
We're going to begin today's meeting with an invocation.
But the devil's in the details, as they say. At least he will be next month when Satanists will give the opening remarks.
And if you can, please stand for the invocation.
Instead of bowing their heads, some are raising an eyebrow at the idea. Councilman Sal DeCiccio raising the red flag on Twitter.
Well, I think it's just stupid sometimes to be politically correct, and this one fits that category.
DeCiccio says the city is trying too hard to be all-inclusive. He believes the Satanists are just trying to make a scene.
I think it's just a dumb idea. We do not legally have to do this.
Practicing member and legal representative Stu DeHaan says that's not true. While they organize on Facebook instead of a temple, they are still a recognized religion.
Just have a message that reason should come above all things, and all decisions should be made from an agnostic standpoint.
China has detained the senior pastor of the country's first megachurch. Since 2005, Joseph Gu has led Changi Church, China's largest Protestant church. It's an official government church in the Chuyang province. Christian activists say the pastor may be detained in a secret location known as a black jail. Pastor Gu has been an outspoken critic of the forced removal of the church crosses in Chuyang. According to China Aid's Bob Fu, Gu is the highest-ranking national church leader arrested since China's Cultural Revolution.
The United Nations says it has received new claims of child sex abuse by European peacekeepers in the Central African Republic. The alleged cases came to light in recent interviews with the victims.
4 of the girls said their abusers were attached to contingents operating as part of the European Union operation, known as EUFOR. 2 of the girls interviewed said they were raped by EUFOR soldiers, and the 2 other girls said they were paid to have sexual relationships with other EUFOR soldiers.
The spokesperson for UN High Commissioner for Human Rights has revealed outrageous details of abuse allegations against French soldiers.
UN human rights staff in the CAR have also separately interviewed a girl and a boy who were aged 7 and 9, respectively, when they were allegedly abused in 2014 by French Sangarese troops. The girl said she had performed oral sex on French soldiers in exchange for a bottle of water and a sachet of cookies.
UN High Commissioner for Human Rights Zaid Rad Al Hussein said he was extremely alarmed about the abuse claims. The allegations also triggered reactions from France and Georgia.
Our goal now is to conduct a detailed investigation. We intend to cooperate with all the relevant organizations and will take all measures necessary to establish the truth. In case these facts are confirmed, then those responsible for committing the crime will be punished accordingly.
France has ordered an investigation into claims of child sex abuse by its soldiers. This is not the first time sexual abuse claims are made against foreign soldiers. In August, 3 females, including a minor in the CAR, accused UN soldiers of rape. Before that, similar allegations were leveled against French troops who were deployed to France's former colony in 2013. Foreign forces were deployed in the CAR to try to stop sectarian violence. The bloodshed in the Central African Republic prompted a humanitarian crisis, causing hundreds of thousands of people to flee their homes. Since their deployment, the foreign forces have been widely criticized for failing to effectively stem the bloody clashes.
There is vocal opposition on both sides of Indiana's latest attempt to balance civil rights protections for homosexuals and religious rights for people with sincerely held beliefs. The Indiana Senate Rules Committee passed a GOP-sponsored bill Wednesday, but critics said it would sanction discrimination against gay people. Indiana's debate over the issue brought in the Washington state florist who made headlines for refusing to provide flowers for a same-sex wedding. Baronelle Stutzman testified that people should not be forced to participate in events that conflict with their beliefs. The future of the bill is not clear. The state Senate did not take action on a second measure that would have extended civil rights protections on both sexual orientation and gender identity.
Police in Sweden combed through this refugee center in the western town of Mölndal, now the scene of a murder. Investigators say a 15-year-old migrant stabbed and killed a female worker here on Monday. They're not identifying the male suspect, his nationality, or what may have been behind the stabbing, but the teen now faces murder charges. The victim is 22-year-old Alexander Metzer. Her family, originally from Lebanon, told Swedish media that she had worked at the asylum center for several months, helping unaccompanied refugee children adapt to life in their new country. Sweden's Prime Minister visited the town soon after the stabbing, saying he was both saddened and angered by the news.
I believe quite a few people here in Sweden now feel a great worry there will be more similar cases as Sweden accepts so many unaccompanied minors. Many of those who come here to Sweden have had traumatic experiences, and there are no simple answers as to how this should be dealt with. But there are some important principles that apply.
Monday's stabbing is just the latest in a string of violent incidents involving or targeting migrants in Sweden. In August, 2 people were stabbed to death, a third badly wounded, at an IKEA store in a town outside Stockholm. 2 Eritrean men were arrested and charged with murder. In October, a masked man with a sword attacked a Swedish school, killing 2 people in what police called a racially motivated attack. These attacks and others have sparked concerns that authorities are overwhelmed by the recent wave of refugees.
Many people have newly arrived in Sweden, and we have responded to multiple disturbances on a weekly basis around the western region and also in the rest of Sweden. We've had many alarms from asylum centres.
Sweden took in 163,000 asylum seekers last year, in a country of around 10 million people. That's among the highest per capita in Europe. The Scandinavian nation has since tightened its rules to curb the flow of migrants, and Sweden's National Police Commissioner is now asking for more than 4,000 additional officers to help deal with the country's refugee situation.
Israel is beefing up security in Judea and Samaria because Jewish settlements there recently have become targets for Palestinian terrorists. They've killed 2 women in separate attacks, including a mother of 6 who was murdered defending her home. More than 400,000 Israelis live in 150 communities in what's known to many as the occupied West Bank. Beit Horon is the 3rd settlement hit by terrorists. It was founded in 1977, where the biblical town of the same name was located. A resident and first responder there says it's part of the divine inheritance of the Jewish people.
This land has belonged to us since the Bible. Yes, we were evicted, thrown out of our land very brutally, dispersed among the nations, but all through the thousands of years, every prayer, no matter where the Jew is in the world, he talks about the return to Zion, to our eternal homeland.
Well, caught on camera, tempers flare on a highway in Austin, Texas. You can see from this cell phone video, one driver gets out of his car and starts swinging a bat at the truck in front of him. The driver of the truck then pulls out a wooden pole.
They swing their weapons at each other. The fight seems to cool off as traffic started to move. Police say they are searching for the first driver who got out of the car with that bat and instigated the fight.
Few Iraqis have suffered worse treatment by the Islamic State than the Yazidis. Yazidis believe God gave control of the world to 7 angels. They do not believe in hell. ISIS considers them devil worshippers. Christians are often spared from death because ISIS views them as people of the book, the Bible. While ISIS has killed some Iraqi Christians and has seized their possessions and homes, the Yazidis have suffered worse persecution. ISIS has murdered many of their men and has taken Yazidi women as sex slaves. Last year, CBN News brought you the story of a young Yazidi woman we called Shanar. In August 2014, ISIS jihadists captured her as she fled Sinjar Mountain. They put her with about 100 other Yazidi girls, including some as young as 10 years old.
We're forcing the girls to convert to Islam and then marry ISIS members. They beat our legs, heads, and arms, demanding all of us to serve them or be used as sex slaves.
Shanar says ISIS fighters came to the house and offered the girls money for sex. Many of them were sold for as little as $1.
They were really determined to harm us. They abused us and took pleasure in it. Most of us wanted to die.
Some of the girls attempted suicide to escape the abuse. An alarming number succeeded. ISIS forced thousands of Yazidis from their homes, and many of them ended up in refugee camps like this one in northern Iraq. Fala Hassan is one of them. ISIS captured him in Mosul, but he later escaped after witnessing the murder of a friend and other Yazidi men. Yazidi Jamil Chito lives alone in the camp. ISIS kidnapped his wife and 4 of his 11 children. Eventually they were rescued and now live in Germany. Other family members weren't as fortunate.
They were surrounded by 7 or 8 cars full of Daesh. They arrested all of them. They took the girls and the woman, but then they blindfolded the rest of the family, including my brother, my brother's wife, cousin, and daughter-in-law, and they killed all of them right there.
Jamil hopes to see his surviving family members again after the city of Mosul is liberated by the Iraqi military and its allies. And now that the city of Ramadi has been retaken from ISIS, planning has started for a new major military offensive, this time against ISIS in Mosul.
His faith got him sidelined, but Coach Joe Kennedy isn't going down without a fight. The high school football coach is speaking out and also taking action, hoping that in the end he can once again coach the game he loves without compromising his faith.
He was fired for praying with his players during high school football games. Coach Joe Kennedy calls sitting in the bleachers for that first game he was sidelined the hardest thing he'd ever been through. But he says that for the chance to impact the lives of his players again, he would go through it all over.
It's not the X's and O's and winning football games, it's watching these guys overcoming the things that they go through in life and emerging as a stronger person because of it, and knowing that you get them for such a small time in their life and being able to be part of it. That's a blessing. That's what God called me to do.
The tradition of praying started out in 2008. At first, they were silent prayers. Then a few of his players got involved, and it just continued to grow from there. The Bremerton School District said in a statement to the Daily Signal that Kennedy's conduct poses a genuine risk that the district will be liable for violating the federal and state constitutional rights of students or others. Kennedy says he never forced his faith on anyone, and participation was never required. The Liberty Institute is representing Kennedy, and they filed an EEOC action against the Bremerton School District for religious discrimination. Kennedy says his end goal is simply to be the coach again,